When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite, obey your thirst.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Welcome to the Dr. Raj podcast with Dr. Raj Dasgupta, a show all about educating patients, students, and aspiring doctors about better patient care. Dr. Raj is a quadruple board-certified physician and associate professor at the University of Southern California. He was a co-host of the TNT series Chasing the Cure with Ann Curry, as well as a regular on the TV show The Doctors. And now, here's our show.
Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Raj podcast. And what is this a podcast of? Well, it's a podcast of happiness. It's a podcast of wellness, just amazing stories and things that just make you happy. And you know what makes me happy? Movies, entertainment, TV. And when I think about awesome movies, if you want to know, I do love the sci-fi genre. I do love an exploding Death Star. I've just seen this Top Gun Maverick. And I got to tell you, one of the best parts of being happy and excited in the movie theater is the sound. It's behind the scenes. It's the editing that brings it all together. So what I thought would be awesome for the Dr. Raj podcast is to get someone who's an Emmy award-winning person who knows about sound and editing, all the magic behind films, and may I say is actually a friend of mine. So today's guest is going to be Victoria Sampson. And before I introduce, you know the routine. I have to give the bio first, and then questions all around. So, Victoria Sampson is an Emmy award-winning producer, writer, director, film and sound editor, and educator. She's a veteran supervising sound editor with over 40 years of experience and over 201 sound credits, including sound editing on Academy Award-winning films for sound such as Speed, yes, Speed with Keanu Reeves, and The River. She has also won 4 Golden Reel Awards and an Emmy for her sound work. In order to give back and create a new generation of informed sound editors and filmmakers, she began teaching at UCLA, and I'll forgive her on that one because, go Trojans, USC, around 1992. So she has many affiliations and memberships. I'm only listing a few. She's part of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences in the sound branch since 1988. She's part of the Motion Picture Sound Editors, Women in Media on the Advisory Board, LA Sound Sisters, Alliance of Women Directors, Motion Picture Editors Guild since 1973. And I'm going to end this with a quote that I just really love. I give back by doing a lot of sound work for free to the directors in the Alliance of Women's Directors, Women in Film, Women in Media, and indie filmmakers. I give workshops for universities and colleges, LA post-production group, and film festivals on how to get the best sound for your project, as well as workshops about sound as a career for at-risk youth. And with that being said, Vicki, thank you for being here on the Dr. Raj podcast.
I'm so happy to be here, Dr. Raj.
Oh, for you, I'm going to say you could call me anything you want because you're just a sweet, awesome person who I've known for quite a while. So I'm excited that you're here. Let's do the meet and greet. So when did you know you wanted to be in entertainment, the movie, the filmmaking business? How did that come about?
Well, my mom and dad were both in the business. My dad, Sherman Rose, was a B movie director and film editor. And he directed such things as Target Earth, which has kind of become a cult classic now. And my mom was a sound editor for TV shows like The Rifleman, The Big Valley. And she was gone a lot when I was little because they divorced when I was 5. So, she kept working, of course. And she also had a career. She actually wanted to be a producer. She loved movies. And in fact, when she was in New York and went to Hunter College, she knew more than the professors who were teaching the film classes. And so they just kind of turned it over to her and said, here, you teach the class, because she just loved movies. So I kind of got my love of movies from her. And I love making people laugh and kind of feeling like I'm entertaining. And so I wrote plays when I was in elementary school. I wrote a whole play about Toto from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
and
okay.
then later, when I grew up, I actually made a film called Click 3 Times about a mentally challenged young woman who finds a bag lady hiding in her garage and thinks it's her fairy godmother. And it starred Isabel Sanford as the fairy godmother from The Jeffersons.
Oh, wow.
And and I did that in 2000, and it won many, many awards and played in many festivals. And I love that piece because it kind of incorporates my whole love of movies. So, when I was little, my mom was always gone. So I thought, well, I want to get in the business. I apprenticed with her one summer in high school and kind of loved it and just kept doing it. She didn't actually get me into the business. Somebody else allowed me to join the union and stuff because she didn't believe in nepotism. But I think she was kind of proud that I wanted to, follow in her footsteps like that. And I apprenticed with her. And, even if you have a relative or something in the business, if you're not good at it yourself, you're not going to stay there. So
of course not.
I kind of, got good and stayed there, even though I really wanted to write and direct. That was my goal. Yeah. And in 1987, I was one of 12 women selected out of 600 applicants to the directing workshop for women at AFI.
Wow.
Where I made my very first film was called Last Chance Saloon, about a modern woman who fantasizes being a cowboy in the Old West in order to take the credit for her own project, which her underling took her credit. Kind of a familiar story, but.
Well, we're going to get back to that, but I want to make sure, I asked this question about your mom because one of my favorite memories, me when I was in your house, I saw a picture with your mom. And I don't think anyone listening today, we're just calling it your mom, really knows who your mom is. So kind of elaborate a little bit. But there was a picture with your mom next to Steven Spielberg for those Jaws, E.T., and George Lucas for us Star Wars geekers, kind of like, oh my God. And they were kind of like privileged to be in the picture with your mom. So can you tell me for the audience who she is and why would these big gun directors be so honored to be next to your mom?
Well, my mom's name was Kay Rose, and she was the first woman sound editor to win an Oscar, which I'm holding up right now, even though
I see it, everyone. Oh, wow.
It was for the movie The River. And Spielberg and Lucas considered my mom their mentor in many ways. She was best friends with Verna Fields, who was the film editor of Jaws.
Oh.
And I would go and swim in Verna's pool. She lived in, Sherman Oaks, and I would go in their pool, and Spielberg would come over with his Springer Spaniels and play in the pool with us, and one time when he was doing Jaws, they had to do a reshoot.
Okay.
And so they brought Bruce the shark over to Verna's pool to do this reshoot.
That is so awesome.
Basically said, Vicky, you got to get out of the pool because we got to do this reshoot with the shark. So I had to go to the pool. It was like, oh, really? Kind of thing.
That's so you're talking Bruce the shark. When I pay for Universal Studios tours, that big old mechanical shark, you're just like, whatever's, I'll get out. I can't believe I need to get out.
I think it was just his head at that point or something. It was a very quick shot, but you know how it goes in the movies. It's all smoke and mirrors. And anyway, so Spielberg and Lucas, they, were very, let's see, like my mom and I worked on New York. And the same time Lucas was doing Star Wars, they were mixing the film at night. We were mixing in the daytime. So we would cross paths, and Marcia Lucas, who was George's wife, was the editor of New York. So they would like pass each other, and So they were always kind of around, and they wanted to give my mom an endowed chair at USC. And by the way, I did teach at USC. So your biography, I did teach there too.
Okay. You got me.
Anyway, so there is an endowed chair in the cinema building. You can look on the plaque and it'll have my mom's name. I think she's in the lower left corner. And they gave her an endowed chair a couple months before she died. And Sarah and Amy came to the ceremony. We were also interviewed. Those are my daughters, Sarah and Amy, who Raj went to school with. I kept telling them, you better do it soon so that she can actually be present to receive it. Yeah. So they kept postponing it for Spielberg's schedule. And sure. I said, I don't want to accept this posthumously. Please do it soon. So they did it in October. They had Johnny Williams and the marching band of USC, a red carpet. They had, a big presentation, and it was really cool. And they filmed us ahead of time, like certain directors my mom worked with, like Mark Rydell. He did The River and the Rose and on Golden Pond. He's like our favorite director. So they showed the movie of everybody talking about, my mom, and she turned to me and she goes, "This is really a big deal, isn't it?" And I said,
cute.
Yeah,
so humble.
Yeah. It really is a big deal and very well deserved. And so she felt like that was like the best night of her life, even though I said, "But Mom, you always told me that me being born was the best night of your life." So changing your story around. So that's who my mom was. She was always concerned more with story. She wasn't a technical person. She kind of retired when analog turned into digital, editing, not on a big moviola machine, which she knew how to do. And then it went to computers, which she didn't know how to do. But it was her ear and her taste for how to support the story through sound, or with sound. Like she would make little sound jokes in certain movies. Like she did a Carl Reiner movie called Where's Papa? And she put little sound jokes in, that he didn't ask for, but it went with the movie and he loved it. Yeah. So,
well, this kind of leads to kind of like the next question is kind of like, being part of such a legacy, and I know that you and Amy and Sarah have all been to the Academy Awards multiple times. Is it kind of intimidating to be part of that family when you doing what you do now, and when you look at the resume and they see who your mom is? Is it kind of intimidating? And
not really, because sound is still sort of the stepchild of the industry. Nobody goes to a movie to see sound, or hear sound, unless it's like a Ben Burt project. He did Star Wars, of course. Again, we're sort of the invisible artists behind the scenes. We're not the glory hunters. In fact, one time when my mom and when she got her Oscar, because she didn't get it on the broadcast, she got it in a separate ceremony. Okay. Based on the kind of Oscar it was. And so the studio paid for a limo for us. And so we're going to the, I think it was what's the big theater, the Shrine that's near you?
It may be. Yeah. Okay.
And so we had the window rolled down a little bit. And so I remember some people that were just, there to see who was coming. They leaned in, they go, "Are you guys anybody?"
That's so funny. At least they're honest. They just want to know.
Well, we got an Oscar. So yeah. So, it's fun. It's definitely, it was more supported for her because she was a biggie,
Yeah. Or is it getting better, Vicki, as far as, raising awareness about, sound is, important. It's not just the stepchild like you referred to it as. Is it getting more attention now, do you think, as movies
Somewhat.
are
getting... I mean, we have issues with the Academy, like 2 years ago when they had certain categories that were off the broadcast and just given the awards and then edited in. Oh, that brought up a lot of stuff for people.
I'm sure.
Like, okay, why don't you do that for the actors next year? So and then they combined our awards. My mom was on the Board of Governors and fought very hard to keep the two parts of sound editing and sound mixing, as separate as possible because they're two different things. But then the Academy said, well, a lot of times the mixers are also the sound editors. So now they're getting 2 Oscars for the same thing. So let's just combine the award.
Can you explain to my audience, because I don't even know the answer. What is, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. What is the difference in layman's terms between editing and mixing of sound in a movie?
Okay, good question. When a movie is shot, we try to go for the cleanest production dialogue, meaning the dialogue that's on the set or location, as possible, because we can always add sounds to that. We can't always take them away. So and of course, there's plugins, which are programs that help reduce the noise in a film, and they're being developed all the time. Like I have this great one called, VX Clarity Pro, which literally can take crickets or rain out of a scene without touching the dialogue. Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Okay.
It's a game changer for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, like let's say you're doing a Western and airplane flies through. So, you can't use that because it's not the right time period, right? You can't hide it. You can't take it away because it's a cycle.
Yeah.
It comes in and goes by, that kind of thing. So we try to get the cleanest production sound recording as we can. Because again, we can always add sounds, we can't take them away. So that's considered production sound, production dialogue. And that's the base, because if you can't hear the dialogue or understand the dialogue, you've got a problem, right? And even in an action adventure film. So then we get that, and then we start layering other sounds with it. Gunshots, car doors, a dog barking, birds.
So background noise, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Right?
So there's background sounds, which are usually always stereo. Dialogue always comes out of the center channel in the theater. Then we have supporting sounds like air, ambiances, wind, rain, traffic, whatever. Like I worked on Fifth Element, we had to come up with space traffic. We can't just go out and record.
So is that the mixing part of it, Vicki?
No, that's editing. That's all.
That's still editing?
Yeah, that's still editing. So we gather sound effects and whatever the movie needs. It needs a knife stab, you have to have, and we have vast sound effects libraries, but it's always good to have fresh new sounds for things. So one of the reasons my mom won her Oscar for the movie The River, which was a 1985 Mel Gibson, Sissy Spacek, production. Yeah. Mark Rydell, the director, sent my mom to Tennessee to record all the different sounds that happen in the movie. Apart from the regular movie that they were shooting, they've got farm equipment, smelting plant, corn, wind in the corn, cicadas, bulls, and old trucks that they were using, because they're the real sounds.
Right. So your mom would go there with special equipment and record these.
She went with a recordist, a person who would record.
That's a whole nother job. Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole other job. So when you see credits, it might say sound, mixer is the production guy or gal who uses a boom mic, big boom mic, or a law that fits on somebody's clothes. Yep. Just to record that as cleanly as possible. And then other sounds can get added later. So then the film gets edited by the film editor, and they use just the production sound that was recorded on the set. Location, and maybe they add some temp music and temp sound effects. Then they turn it over to a supervising sound editor like me. And then I delegate to all the different departments. Here, you do the foley, which is sync sound effects specifically for the film. Sound effects, hard effects, which are like gunshots, door open and closes, background effects, all of these different elements, like ADR, which is automated dialogue replacement.
Talk about that, yeah.
We will, but then there's also group ADR. So like if you're in a restaurant scene or in the cantina in Star Wars, all those actors are told not to talk out loud because they want to keep the clean tracks for the actual
dialogue that they're saying in the movie.
The main people. Because again, if things are married together, you can't undo them. So that's all editing. Think of it as like baking a cake. So we gather all the ingredients, we blend them, we mix them together in a bowl, and then we hand it over to a mixer who bakes it. So
nice analogy. And he made me hungry at the same time.
Yeah, it happens. So the re-recording mixer, there'll be dialogue and music. And we used to have 3 of them, like dialogue, effects, and music. Now the dialogue person always usually mixes the music as well, and then there's a separate sound effects person who re-record. So they take all the tracks that we have hundreds of tracks that make up the sound in a movie. Even a regular talkie movie, a dialogue-driven movie, has hundreds of sounds. So those have to get blended and balanced against each other so that you hear the dialogue clearly and you feel the sounds are surrounding you, whether it's in Dolby Atmos, which is the sound that goes through the speakers above your head now in certain theaters. And so all of those get mixed together, and then that creates the soundtrack for the theater.
And you know what's crazy? It's like, it's almost when you hear something has just finished filming, whether it's a motion picture or a TV show, just hearing this quick spiel you gave me, it's almost like the work just begun right when the film is done. It just, and I can't even imagine how much work it is just to do 5 minutes of a film. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
God knows.
Well, sometimes I get asked to do the sound on my friends' shorts and stuff. I'll say, how long is it? Oh, it's only 10 minutes. And everybody on my crew worked for free. And I said, yeah, how long did they work for? A day? Yeah, that was a day. I said, do you know how long it's going to take me to edit your 10-minute film? I said, it'll probably take you 2 weeks,
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Or a
week,
depending on what you need and what your sound, like if you don't record the sound very well in the beginning, then you have to fix it. And that takes time, or you have to loop it or ADR it. People say to me, well, with all your knowledge, don't you do you go to a movie? Can you watch a movie properly? I said, yeah, I want to get lost in the movie just like any audience does. But I also, if something really sticks out to me, I get disturbed by it.
So you did a big role in Speed, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to bring movies up there. I just feel are game changers. We all know that classic bus scene. And what was your role in that? And you mentioned right off camera that, hey, you got this close. You were inching towards an Oscar.
I was the ADR supervisor. And a good thing to know is that directors have to do what they feel is best at the time. And Jon DeBont, who was the director of Speed, he had been a cinematographer. So he's very visual. He didn't know much about sound. And so he wanted the emotion of them on an actual driving bus to be in the film. So he chose not to tow the bus with a camera car, which means that you just put the bus on a trailer and then you pull it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any engine going. And everybody told him, if you do it with real engine, you're going to have to probably loop or replace all the dialogue in the whole bus scene.
That makes sense.
But he's like, okay. He didn't, because the bus was really only going from first to second gear, which is like,
right.
And of course, the conceit of the story is that the bus has to stay above 60 miles an hour.
Or some, yeah, exactly.
50, 60, I forget. 60,
right.
or it blows up.
Yep.
So, and then if you try to put more engine sounds on top of that bad sound, it's just mushy, And so, and of course, the actors are speaking above that noise floor. There's always a noise floor, like I'm sure when you go in front of a big audience of people, you have the echo in the room and you're speaking louder, you're projecting more.
Yeah.
Even if you have a microphone, it's just human nature.
To want to project louder. No, I do it all the time. Yeah.
Yes. So they had to ADR the whole bus scene, which was my glory and my expertise in that. And, but an interesting thing too, because we could probably fix that bad sound today with the tools we have, but we were still on analog, which means everything had to be pretty close to sync, because you couldn't. Right now we can stretch words and we can do all kinds of things to get words in mouths, but back then you were limited by a quarter of a frame, and there's like 30 frames a second in a movie. So, 1/4 of a frame, I mean, we can move things in subframes now, digital, and stretch things without changing the pitch. So, and Keanu, he just come off of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Of course.
Dude, right? So the ADR, gave him a chance to really change his performance. So he made his voice a little deeper and more manly. So, and what I do for my classes is I show them the production sound for Speed in this one scene right after the lady leaves the bus and the bus kind of blows up a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
This is my friend Beth Grant. I became friends with her on that show and then worked with her again on Donnie Darko. She played the cheerleader teacher on Donnie Darko. Anyway, wonderful woman. And so then Keanu comes over and talks to Sandra Bullock, who's driving the bus, and he's like, we had to let her blow up, it's his fault, Annie, not, anyway, he goes through a whole spiel. But in the original one, you can barely understand what he's saying. And it's a two shot of both of them. So you want some intimacy.
Of course.
But the dialogue is married to the noise of the engine.
Yeah.
So when we looped it, he really brought his authority. he was very intimate. And now you can change the balance of the sound effects, the bus sounds with the voice, so that his voice can be a little bit higher, projected better. We did that for 3 weekends in a row because he was already in Canada working on Johnny Mnemonic. And then we came on the weekend up to Canada, his assistant, me, and the director, all, and then we looped him like Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And by the third weekend, he was literally picking up a chair and throwing it through the wall. It's a frustrating process because you're recreating a whole performance,
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay, a holiday you're saving.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. This season, enjoy spacious, comfortable rooms and friendly service when you book with Hilton instead. Hilton for the stay.
No, and let me, this is my chance, and you could make fun of me because ADR, I want people who listen to this to really appreciate what it is. So, for example, and Vicky, I know you're a pro at this. Imagine me just kind of like filming myself walking through the quad, the campus here at USC. I'm giving a little spiel. If you hear my audio, what I'm talking about, you may be drowned out, like you said, by the students around me, the patients around me, and all the noise. But when you do ADR, you take me in a room separate, of everything else. I re-record my dialogue, and then you kind of tee it up to the actual film, and it sounds so crisp and clear. And it's just amazing when you put those right by each other. You know what I mean? ADR is like a game changer, like you said. And when you watch Speed, of course, I didn't even think about that, about the engine noise and all the background noise. But when you watch the movie, their dialogue is so good and crisp. You know what I mean? So you're amazing.
Well, you want it to feel natural, not just because, when you do ADR and we have to program line by line by line, because the automated part of that automated dialogue replacement is that every line you say gets like a little series of beeps in front of it. So it goes beep, 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 talk. So, and that's like a rhythm cue to get you into. But you have to do it line by line by line. So you're not doing it to other actors. You're doing it on a bare stage, and you're watching your mouth. And sometimes actors get intimidated, and so they're always like a little bit behind because they're trying to watch their mouth move. And so I'll say, "Close your eyes, trust the beeps, Luke."
No, you're setting me up. So this is a great segue for, I'm going to talk about your work on, ADR on Return of the Jedi. Huge Star Wars fan. I am so jealous that you get to hang out with all these peeps. And there was this funny story I heard about a VHS tape of Return of the Jedi, and you had to do something with it, and maybe it got misplaced. Tell me what happened. Tell me the truth behind this story.
Okay. So here's the truth. So I first have to preface it by telling you that George Lucas approached my mom and said, "Hey, I got this movie coming up. I really want you to work on it. It's called Star Wars." And
wait, the original Star Wars, like
the actual Star Wars, the very first one. Yeah. So he asked my mom to do the sound. She says, "Oh, George, I don't like science fiction." and she and I both talked afterwards, and it was like, Star Wars, what a dumb name for a movie. Like, what, a war out in space? Like, who cares, which taught me that she both she knew her strengths and her weaknesses. Like, her strength is dialogue-driven movies because she loves story. She's supporting story with sound. She's a great sound effects editor, but she wouldn't have been the right choice for Star Wars. Yeah. It would have been fine, but it wouldn't have been like groundbreaking the way it was, But I always think that's so funny that she turned down Star Wars.
I know. I didn't even know that. I'm glad you're dropping these pearls during our conversation.
Oh, there's so many. I mean, I could talk about this for hours. Anyway, so I was kind of happy when I was asked to do the ADR for the English actors for Return of the Jedi. So I went up to, San Francisco every week. I was in my bench on, Monday morning and, at 10 o'clock because I flew, and they would let me fly home I think it was like PSA, or there was some airlines.
PSA, I remember PSA.
They had vouchers. And so every Friday night I would leave and come home and be with my family,
Okay.
And so the girls were 5 and 7, I think. So I programmed everything, line by line for all the English actors, including Alec Guinness and Michael Ian Pietro and
awesome.
All the English people. And they put me on, I'm ready to go on a Virgin Atlantic flight, first class, because that's how they have to do it.
How you roll.
That's how you roll. Going anywhere over 5 hours. Anyway, I thought, I'm going to England in January. I'll need thermal underwear. I didn't know. I was like, what is it, a third world country or something? But so I had Sarah and Amy in my car. I had the boxes of film. It was film, not tapes, but boxes of 1,000-foot reels, in 2 big boxes. I had my briefcase with my ticket, my passport, my cue sheets, which are the program sheets, and some clothes that I was pulled over to a sporting goods shop in Hollywood in my 67 red Mustang. Important part of the story. And I had this intuition like, don't abandon the car here, I said, I'll only be like 5 minutes. So I go in, get the stuff, come out, the windows smashed, and the film was taken.
Oh.
And my clothes were taken. They did not take my little canvas briefcase that had all the stuff in it, but they took the film that I was supposed to be on with the next day. So I had to call Lucas, at 9 o'clock at night.
Wait, are we talking George or Lucasfilm?
Well, Lucasfilm,
Okay, I'm like, hey, George.
Like, hello, hi, it's Vicky. The film was stolen out of my car, So they had to call an assistant in overnight to deconform the film back to the version I had cued to, because all the cues are timed perfectly to a certain version of the film. And they're like, did it have the name of the film on it? Because, we went by a secret name for the film. I think it was Savage Harvest or Brown Harvest. I always forget what it was. And I said, no, it had, because at first it was called Revenge of the Jedi, and they changed it to Return of the Jedi.
And I do know that for a fact, because Revenge was a little too aggressive at the time. So Jedi want revenge.
Right.
I love that you know this. I'm very proud of you, Vicky. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Raj. So then and my mom went out and got another London fog jacket for me, and and we get to the airport, and the guy from San Francisco comes running down the thing with 2 boxes of film, like, here you go. And then he got back on the plane to go back to San Francisco, and they sent detectives down from north, from San Rafael, and went through like all the trash cans in Hollywood or something. And I'm sure it just didn't look like anything to them, because it was like black and white dupes, which are, as I said, 1,000 feet, which is about, what would you say? That's the size of a dinner plate, let's say. And then that was crazy. So then when I get to London, and I was like so nervous, I broke out in hives. I was like itching all over. I couldn't enjoy the flight there, with the first class service and all. Anyway, I get there, and they whisk me off to Abbey Road Studios, where John Williams is conducting the orchestra.
Aww.
And George is off in the corner with big, noise reduction headphones on, next to a big speaker. And I went like, hi, hi. And then I kind of mouthed, sorry, and he's like, well, what are you going to do,
Oh.
But that's the only Lucasfilm I ever worked on. But anyway.
And that was the last Lucasfilm I worked on.
That was the last one I worked on. But when I got to London, it was a great session. And Sir Alec Guinness hadn't ever done looping with the beeps before.
Okay.
He was used to the old-fashioned one. Why they call it looping was because they would put spacer of like just fill film in between the lines. So the thing would go around, and it would be like, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? And you would put the same, you would hear it and then repeat it, and hear it and repeat it.
Okay.
Some actors still like to do it that way, like John Travolta. He loves to do it that way, but they all come out exactly sounding the same. But anyway, that's the process. So at the end of our session with Sir Alec Guinness, I don't think he was a sir yet, but I said, "Oh, would you sign my cue sheet?" He says, "Oh, my dear, it would be such a pleasure if you would sign mine."
Oh, nice.
Then this guy comes in and I said, "Hi, are you here to do the looping?" And he says, "Yes." And I said, "Well, what character are you?" And he's like, "I'm the Emperor." And I looked at him and went, "You are not, the young guy then, And they made him look like he played the Emperor.
Wow.
And, he looked like an old guy, And I said, "Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't recognize you without your makeup on, But it was a very wonderful experience. But one of the fun things about that is there was a shot of one of the stormtroopers, and it was like a big medium shot, right?
Okay.
So you see his face. And when you breathe, like if you inhale, go ahead and inhale. Yeah. See your shoulders move.
Oh yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Your shoulders go back and usually ADR is cued right to the first word. So the actor is going to inhale over those 3 beeps.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay.
So if you go beep, 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 talk, they're going to take the inhale on the beeps. And back then you could only have the beeps out loud on the speakers so the actor could hear them.
Gotcha.
And so I would make a note because I'm missing that breath. I'm missing hearing that breath. So after all the takes, I'm trying to find like a take where maybe he breathed somewhere else. I can make a note and put it there later, And I said, "Gosh, I hate to ask you this, but can we program for the inhale?" And the director and the actor looked at me like I was nuts. And I said, "Just trust me, you'll like it. It won't look like ADR if you hear the breath." And they're like, "Well, he's in the big stormtrooper building, whatever that, hangar."
Yeah, the Death Star.
Yeah, and there's thousands. There's going to be lots of noise. I said, "Yeah, but he's right. You can see his shoulders go up." So anyway, they ended up, doing a breath for me. Thank you. Like, please, And then later, after I was done editing, because you have to sync it up a lot better than when they record it, as much as you can do. They called me from the dub stage up in San Francisco, and they said, "Nobody could believe that was a loop line because of that breath."
Ah!
All right.
You got the last laugh on that one. I like it.
And we also recorded in an old cow barn across from Hyde Park, I think it was, and it had these rounded archways, and it used to be where they would bring the cows in at night. And it sloped down, so it was kind of underground a little bit, and they turned that into an ADR recording studio.
Vicky, I got to make sure I ask you these questions, because I could sit here and just do coffee with you. I should have got like some bourbon for us and some cigars, but here, answer these questions for me. So one fun thing I wanted to teach my audience was, can you quickly just let us know what foley is and what is its role in a movie, and do you still do it?
Oh, yeah. So Foley was named after a Universal sound editor named Jack Foley, and it's basically sync sound effects made to the picture specifically. So let's say you're working on a Western and some guy walks down the boardwalk with his spurs jangling, clomp, 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 right? So like if it didn't have any dialogue in it, like my mom on the Rifleman or Big Valley, she would pull that sound effect out and put it in their sound effects library so that anybody looking for boots with spurs walking on a boardwalk could find it and edit it in specifically like that. So I think in the mid 60s or so, they discovered that why not, just use a sound stage and have somebody holding a boom mic and recording, like, I'm going to watch him walk and I'm going to walk in sync. And, we'll do the spurs separately so they don't get married, because remember, separate sound is best.
That's right.
We could do all kinds of surfaces. So a Foley and it's still called affectionately Foley after Jack Foley. And it's really a very, very integral part of a film if they have the budget for it. Now, most, indie films just don't do it. And so you end up cutting it out of the library, but that's very laborious to try to sync something that's going do, 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 to somebody going do, 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 do,
And when was the last time you've done it for one of your projects? The Blue Moon, it's pretty common for you.
Yeah, one of my projects. No, I haven't. I don't have the budget for Foley. I cut it out of a library, but these are Foley artists. I actually last year I directed a piece about Foley for a possible interesting new show using the premier Foley artists in the world, John Rush, who now works at Lucasfilm. They built him his own Foley stage, and a Foley stage is just a big stage equipped with like maybe 2 or 3 feet by 5 feet surfaces. So there's hardwood, softwood, dirt. There's a water pit. There's it looks like your grandma's garage. It's got so much stuff in it that because anything could be used for sound. And oftentimes the real sound doesn't sound like what we think the real sound sounds like. So
of course not.
How we make grass footsteps is we pull out 1/4-inch tape or cassette tapes, the tape from the tapes, and put that on dirt. And when you walk on it, it sounds like grass. Or if you use cornstarch, will sound like snow. So they've gotten very good at, recreating based on how the microphone is hearing it. So that's why there's lots of sound jobs. I mean, there's Foley artists who are the walkers. They called them walkers for a while. Now they're Foley artists. I did actually on my film Reflections that I did a couple years ago, I got a donated Foley services because it's really good to get something very specific as opposed to trying to find a sound and fit it into that frame. So Foley is a very important part of the film process. So.
And I want to make sure I ask you this too, because I was reading your bio. You're a part of women's directors, women in film, women in media. Are you part of raising awareness about getting women more involved in the film industry?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like in the movement of it, but I'm certainly advocating for it because there's not too many women sound editors anymore that I've seen. I mean, there are, many more women directors and, below the line, like camera operators and DPs, director of photography, grip and electric, which has been traditionally men, dominated. Women are learning those crafts due to Women in Media is one of the groups that puts together these huge companies that help train women to be grips and electric and camera operators and set construction and production design and things like that. And I like enlightening people about the use of sound. That's why I go to film festivals and schools. I'm going to Savannah College of Art and Design in November and doing a mentor workshop there for a few days. So, because I want directors to know the power of it. It's not just a technical thing. It's part of storytelling. So I tell them, read their scripts and think about the story and the sound. Like whatever environment you're in right now, just listen to it, see what it is. When you go on location, and you have a beautiful visual, but maybe it's on a flight path.
Yeah.
Or near a school that lets out at 3:00 every day,
I love talking about the sound editing, but you're a producer, a writer, a director. What do you like to do the most right now?
I love directing. I love writing, but I find that's very solitary and I often put it off last, even though I have great ideas for scripts and I need to write more. But I love creating and I love directing. I love film editing. I love it all, really. But sound editing is a really hard position because it's like the last part of the process of filming. So let's say they have this release date over here, my hand's on the right side of the screen.
Okay.
And then, they film here. Oh, maybe they go a little over. Oh, now we're going to turn it over to the sound editors and you get like 20 seconds, finish the sound, and people, they don't appreciate, the time that it takes. I even had to tell Barbara Streisand, on Prince of Tides, Barbara wanted me to do this thing where when we were on the ADR stage, now that you know what that is, she and Nick Nolte were doing a scene together and she wanted them to do it together. And I said, Barbara, if you do that and you overlap and you want to change the position of one of your lines of dialogue, we can't do that because they're going to be married. Oh, that's okay. I want to do it this way. Okay, great. So then later on, when it gets cut into the movie, she goes, can we change the position of that line? And I said, Barbara, I said, you may be Barbara Streisand, but even you can't fly to New York in 20 minutes. I said, and I started to tell her how long. She goes, no, like la, 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 la. Don't tell me how long it's going to take because that might influence my decision to have you do, what I want. I said, well, I don't want to stop your process, but you just need to know that I will be here all night trying to do that.
Yeah.
So like you get to drive home and,
Yep.
get driven home and, I still have to stop and buy dog food, So the post-production, and I can see why many women don't do it now, because you're always trading, time for money, right? So yes, this is the job and this is what it entails. So oftentimes I couldn't get home and see the girls. I couldn't put them to bed. I didn't know what was going on in their lives too much because I was always working, after Ron died. So I had to, be the one person to do that. So it was hard. It was a hard job to try to juggle that and, try to be a mom in the few minutes I had to be one. And even the weekends. I mean, we now have a 19-day rule where, you can't work more than 19 days in a row without a day off. I mean, that might seem crazy, but I remember one story about a woman who had been an ER nurse, right? And she wanted to get into film. And so she was an assistant editor. And one day everybody was running around like, oh, we got to get this. We got to get this. There's a deadline. And she's like, wait a minute. This is not a cure for cancer. This is a movie, It's like, yeah, there's that perspective. But, when you're in the throes of it, you have to do what you have to do to get it done. So,
and this kind of leads to where I want to ask you is, right now, I mean, what are your goals in the future? You accomplished so much. I love hearing. I understand now. I mean, when I used to get a chance to come visit your house and spend time with Sarah in high school, I never appreciated how busy you were. And I'm loving having this talk with you, but what are your goals now? What do you want to do?
Well, I retired officially from the union in 2014, just so I could do more directing and writing. And I've done like a bunch of films and a bunch of little, short commercial type things. I have not yet directed a feature. I'm hoping to. In fact, I had a meeting today with a woman who was very encouraging. But, it takes money. And even making these short little films, like both those two shorts, Reflections and You Drive Me Crazy, they're only 8 minutes, but they each cost about, $10,000 to $12,000, which, you have to raise the money because I don't have it. I can't expect the same people to work for free over and over. And you're always, if you get somebody inexperienced, then you have to make up for it later by fixing whatever they didn't do. And, especially for camera work, when you have an out of focus shot, you cannot use it. Okay. So you have to get a good DP with a good first assistant camera who controls the focus. And that's why I try to compare it with sound. It's like sound. Picture is like everything, sound, oh, we'll fix it in post. Well, my mantra sort of is, let's fix it on the set. Let's fix it before it becomes a problem. And I'm sure you as a doctor know preventive is always better than surgery.
Well said. Bringing the medicine to this. I like that. I like that.
Right. So, so I would like to get a little better balance in my life of things. But as my daughters always remind me, Mom, you're always so busy. You're busy. I said, yeah, I know. I've really got to pull back on that because I tend to do, if somebody says, oh, Vicki, can you fix this? I was like, oh, yes, of course I will, and I need to stop doing that so much because it's a lot of time. And because I can't let things go, if I know they can be fixed, I want to fix them.
Well, isn't that the best quality about what you do is having that? You know what I mean? Because that's why you have those awards behind you and it says director behind you because you don't want to let those things go.
Right. I don't. But, sound is a big, big time suck. I just did a memorial for a friend's brother. I was supposed to go film it for her, but I was in a car accident. I couldn't go, whatever. And I'm fine. The car was,
Oh, thank you for throwing that part in there. Okay.
So people just filmed with their iPhones. So some people filmed vertically, which is how, people do with their phones, but films are done horizontally, wide frame. So I'm trying to figure out how do I mix the two together and, and the sound was horrible, of course, but I used my new program, my plugin so that I could get rid of all the wind and put some music in it and, did some titles and, they thought it was just the cat's meow,
Sure was.
But it took me probably a good week of solid time to do it. And, she paid me $250. So what is that, like 3 cents an hour? I don't know.
Hoping you break it down like that. Yes.
I know. But as I said, it's really hard for me to just, I can't like edit without integrity, but they don't pay me enough for integrity. But I don't know how to dumb it down. I don't know how to give less than what I know how to give,
Yeah.
And that does take time. So but I want to, do more writing, and hopefully I can do a feature before I die, and just try to enjoy what I'm doing.
Well, Vicky, let me ask you one last question. I mean, there are people who are listening to podcasts that not everyone wants to go into medicine or whatever it is going to be. There are people who want to be in the film industry or entertainment. So what advice would you give, young individuals starting their careers, whether it be high school or college, who want to go into the business? I know it's a broad question, but from all your experiences, what could you say?
My best advice is just to make content, like how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 right? They don't call medicine a done deal. It's always a practice, right?
Yes.
So I think, and now making movies is so accessible. I mean, people can do it on their phones, and then they're going to learn how to reinvent the wheel again. But and almost every school, even high schools now have, film making programs. And of course, USC has a great, filmmaking program. And the endowed chair that's there is headed by Midge Costin right now. And, my mom and I are both in the Making Waves. Do you know that documentary?
No, I don't.
Midge directed it. It's called Making Waves, The Art of Cinematic Sound. And it credits USC, and it has a lot of interviews with a lot of us gals and guys in the sound business. And it really explains the whole process. I encourage anybody to check it out. I think it might still be on Amazon. You can find it. Making Waves, The Art of Cinematic Sound. And I remember taking Janet's mom, and Sarah and Amy were both here for the preview of it too, which was kind of fun, coincidentally. And I took Janet's mom to it, and she's known me for like 30 years. And she turned to me after it was over and she goes, "Oh, is that what you've been doing?" It is sort of a mystery, So I encourage people to just make, content or go to film schools. You can even do it as UCLA Extension or USC has classes. Cal State LA, I've been teaching there for the last couple of years. They have a cool program, and most junior colleges have filmmaking. The other thing is once you do make a film, you get with a group of people. I mean, Spielberg got Richard Anderson, who was his, they met in film school, and he was his sound editor for years and years on Indiana Jones and many other things. So, you become, you want to work with people, so you get a little group together and you make films, hey, let's put on a show. And then once you get it made, you take it to film festivals. And really, even if you haven't made a film, you should go to film festivals that have panels and workshops, because you get to talk to the people who made films, and you can glean from their experience, information that you need. Because you don't need to reinvent the camera. It's like, figure out how to get good sound. If you're going to shoot on an iPhone, figure out how to get good sound, because you might have beautiful images, but if your sound is bad, it makes your whole film look sucky,
I love this practical advice. And
also just reach out to people who are in the business who might want to help you, I give my email address out. I have great handouts that I give to people to help them get good sound on the set, so that people like me don't get stuck fixing things. Because look, wouldn't you rather have me work on your film in a creative capacity than just the fix-it person?
Of course.
And I can't make it good until I fix it. It's not going to be good. Adding more sound to it isn't going to make it good, but hearing the dialogue might make it better,
Well, since you offered being helpful, the last thing I wanted to ask was, there are people going to listen to this podcast that, want to learn more about you and take more of your advice. So even though I'll put this all in the show notes, do you have some sort of website or how they get a hold of you, or what's the best way?
Probably just email, which is just my email, vsampson@aol.com. I'm old school, vsampson@aol.com. And yeah, I'm happy to send handouts or whatever. I'm reachable. So,
I mean, Vicki, thank you for spending time with me today. It's funny. I was kind of like, yeah, we're just going to bang this out in 30 minutes. I mean, me and you, like I said, we could keep it going. I'm like looking at the time like, oh my God, I got to cut this. You're amazing. The stories you tell me, you got me involved where I'm like, okay, let's just keep on going. And you're an amazing person. Thank you for all you've done. And I really do finally understand all these years later what you actually do. And it made me happy. So thank you for being on the Dr. Raj podcast.
Oh, thanks. I really liked it too.
And for all my listeners, hey, thank you for listening in today, and stay tuned in 2 more weeks for another episode of amazing stories and amazing people. Catch you soon.
Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Ars Longa Media. Our producers are Madison Linden and Chris Brightigan. Our executive producer is Dr. Patrick Beeman. This podcast is for educational purposes only and not intended for medical advice. Ars Longa, Vita Brevis.